Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star based on novel. So let's start. He could only choose one out of the two. Luo Feng's eyes revealed his choice instantly. I have no other options. For everything that he wholeheartedly sought to protect, even if it meant sacrificing himself, it would be worthwhile. Besides, this was only his miniature universe. The destruction of a miniature universe would only mean that he would no longer be able to rise up the ranks. That was all. In the virtual universe, within the floating godly palaces, the true gods of the primal universe had gathered. A map that represented everything within Universe Ocean was suspended high above them all. 9 Remoteness True Master, Space Beast Ancestor, Shahua Island Leader, and all the other true gods were all staring at the map, which was densely covered with spots of light. All of them were worried. The sector beasts have divided into 2 groups. The true gods were upset. Sitting high up above them, the white-robed form of Luo Feng looked down. He did not hide anything from them. In the face of a life-and-death crisis, there was nothing worth hiding. Attention, all, he announced. Now the sector beasts have divided themselves into 2 groups. 450,000 sector beasts are surrounding my miniature universe, prepared to close in on my miniature universe to start devouring it at any moment. The other group also consists of 450,000 sector beasts. They are now at the region where the miniature universe of the first reincarnation era originally was. Presently, they are working in pairs, fighting and devouring one another. The victorious ones will continue in pairs to fight and kill. If such fighting and killing continues, evolution will happen among the 450,000 sector beasts. An extremely terrifying individual will emerge. If one reaches the 6th stage, then even someone like me will lose all hope. 6th-stage sector beasts were able to divide themselves into 10 million bodies. No matter how powerful someone could be, in the face of such power, the most one could achieve was to kill a single body. Under the restriction of the invisible law, Morosa would be forced to fight against that 6th-stage sector beast and be killed in that fight. The moment that 6th-stage sector beast finished off the others and became king, it would personally breed a great many warriors. Those warriors would be even more terrifying than the 6th-stage sector beast. Such a mighty army would definitely be able to wipe out everything. Working in pairs to catch and fight one another? If this goes on, soon, one will evolve into a super sector beast. Only Milky Way Horde leader might possibly be able to put a stop to all of this. But if he were to head over there, the 450,000 sector beasts surrounding his miniature universe would immediately start devouring it. The true gods were all transmitting their thoughts amidst their conversations, discussing the issue with great anxiety. Currently, everyone was at a loss. This was a pair of extremely tough choices. The sector beasts were born to be arrogant. Every single beast yearned to become the king. And now, they were working in pairs as they fought and killed. It was, in fact, not a fair system. Take a 2nd-stage sector beast, for instance. Normally it would be fighting against other 2nd-stage sector beasts. This way, it could continue to grow and develop. But now, in a pairing system, it would be forced to fight against any variety of other pairs, even pairs of 3rd-stage sector beasts. And even if it knew that it was headed for its own doom, there was no way it could avoid it. The 450,000 sector beasts that were tasked to keep Luo Feng trapped by surrounding him had even lower chances of becoming a 6th-stage sector beast. Such an allocation of strength was unfair. If the threat was not so significant, the sector beasts would absolutely not choose such a method to determine their ultimate king, but Luo Feng was much too intimidating. They were forced into submission when they faced him, so they opted for the cruelest method of killing to choose their king. Though cruel, the method worked effectively. Luo Feng and the various races of Universe Ocean had fallen into a desperate situation. Luo Feng looked down at the numerous true gods who were all engaged in a heated discussion. Luo Feng. Seated at his side, Primal Chaos City leader sent a voice transmission. Needless to ask what they are all thinking. They hope that you, Luo Feng, can go and fight on their behalf, although it might cost you your miniature universe. But whether or not your miniature universe is destroyed, the other races really could not be bothered. It's just that they do not dare breathe a word about it, lest they anger you. Luo Feng nodded. He understood this point. He transmitted his reply to teacher. I am given no choice at all. Primal Chaos City leader sighed lightly. True. No choice at all. Luo Feng looked down at the various true gods and finally opened his mouth to speak. Dear all. The various true gods all looked up and listened intently. Stemming the tide of the sector beast calamity is of the utmost importance, Luo Feng announced. I will head over to the region where the miniature universe of the first reincarnation era is without further delay. And I will do my best to deal with this sector beast threat. Teacher. Milky Way. Luo Feng. Right away, the human true gods were shouting. Fire Dome True God and Hong were all the more worried. If Luo Feng had chosen to set off for the other region, then his miniature universe, which was of such a massive size, would have been difficult to protect, even if there was help from the other true gods. It could almost have been said that his miniature universe was destined to be devoured by the sector beasts. This would sever Luo Feng's future, and he would no longer be able to progress further up the ranks. No need to talk me out of it, Luo Feng said. My miniature universe is large enough. Perhaps it can endure for a much longer time. But those are 450,000 sector beasts. Fire Dome True God was anxious. Luo Feng shook his head. I have no choice. The human true gods, who initially had been trying to talk Luo Feng out of his decision, fell silent. Even the demon and bug true gods, who would normally express some degree of gloating over another's misfortunes, all felt a sinking feeling in their hearts. It was true. There was no choice at all. Even Milky Way Horde leader was left with no choice. They, the various races, were all the more pathetic and helpless. They could only pray that Milky Way Horde leader would succeed. If not, they were all bound for annihilation. This time, as I set off, I do so without 100% confidence. Luo Feng shook his head. The 450,000 sector beasts at the region of the first reincarnation era have been fighting one another, and many have already been annihilated. They are scattered. When I catch them in their pairs, the most I will be able to kill, along with the first two I find, would be the other two fighting against this pair. This way, even if I have to kill any, I will not be able to do so in a large-scale approach. The true gods below him all felt the same sinking feeling in their hearts again. I will do my best to deal with the sector beasts, Luo Feng continued. As for protecting your own miniature universes, that will be up to you all. I cannot afford to be distracted further. Silence. The true gods looked at one another. Although they were all unwilling to accept such a decision, they were also aware that Luo Feng was not even able to protect his own miniature universe. It would be even more difficult to protect their miniature universes. Milky Way Horde leader, you go ahead. You are already putting your own miniature universe at risk. Even if we were to lose our miniature universes, it would not be a big deal. Yes. The possibility of us transcending reincarnation was originally so low that it could be regarded as negligible. With or without a miniature universe, it barely makes a difference. Milky Way Horde leader, no need to be distracted over us. Against the sector beast crisis, we are all so powerless, but we will certainly not do anything to affect Milky Way Horde leader. At this juncture, the true gods of the various races were still able to determine what was more pressing. Exterminating all the sector beasts eclipsed all else. Everything else could be sacrificed, regardless of how unwillingly the sacrifice was made. But with that great army of sector beasts laying siege and charging at them, how would their miniature universes be able to ward off the attacks? They had to accept this, and at the same time, they had to fervently pray that Luo Feng would succeed. This was a true calamity. If they could pull through to survive it, that would be considered a victory. Just as the true gods of various races were caught up in their discussion, sitting mountain guest, who was seated in a corner as he quietly observed everything that was going on, revealed a trace of a smile. This truly is my disciple. No one can perceive his internal struggle and hesitation. Knowing what goes through his mind, I can tell his disposition. He is acting out of his own free will. His intention to help. Even though he has become the #1 master of Universe Ocean, his heart is still as clear as before, untarnished by all the filthiness around him. Sitting Mountain guessed was crystal clear. When those who were weaker made their ascent, step by step, it was still possible for others to discern what was going through their minds and to know their disposition. Then it would be possible to know what their original intentions were and, appropriately, cut off all thoughts of temptations. But the moment one became a most powerful existence. By that time, they could naturally request for and possess so much more. That was when the human heart got greedier and started to long for more. This was when continuing to maintain a clear heart became something trying. Luo Feng. Sitting Mountain guest transmitted his voice. Seated at the highest level, Luo Feng involuntarily turned to look at Sitting Mountain guest. Teacher. Luo Feng transmitted his reply. You can set off, Sitting Mountain guest said. Go handle the threat of the sector beasts. As for your miniature universe, you need not worry. I will head over to your miniature universe right away. For the time being, I will stay within your miniature universe. I have a treasure with me, and I will try my very best to protect your miniature universe to prevent it from being devoured. What? Where he was seated, Luo Feng was shocked. Beside him, even Primal Chaos City leader could sense that Luo Feng seemed to have undergone a change in demeanor. He could not help turning over to look at Luo Feng. Teacher. Luo Feng was shocked beyond measure. You are saying you will protect my miniature universe? Sitting Mountain guest continued to reply via voice transmission. Right. Teacher, what about your own miniature universe? Luo Feng quickly asked. I can only protect one, Sitting Mountain guest replied right away. The true meaning of what he had just said was that the moment Sitting Mountain guest entered Luo Feng's miniature universe to try his best to help Luo Feng, his own miniature universe would be neglected. He could not divide his attention between two miniature universes. Luo Feng became very anxious. Teacher, your miniature universe. The moment it gets devoured, my miniature universe. Say no more, Sitting Mountain guest said. It would be pointless. Even if I were to transcend reincarnation, your survival is more important. I have put so much effort into cultivating you, and you are much stronger than I ever imagined. Your potential is boundless. How can such a promising future be so easily severed? Then all of my expectations and efforts throughout these endless years would come to naught. Luo Feng was taken aback. True. He was more than willing to sever the possibility of further advancement in the future. But did he spare a thought for Sitting Mountain guest? Teacher Sitting Mountain guest had taken him under his wing to cultivate him. If Luo Feng was no longer able to advance, that would definitely dash all of Sitting Mountain guest's hopes and expectations. Think no more, Sitting Mountain guest said. It is not a big deal if I cannot attain the void space level. You must transcend reincarnation. That is most important. In the future, you will come to learn of all the secrets, and by then, you will understand the reason why I, your teacher, have to do all this. Go. Put in your very best effort to deal with the sector beasts. Your miniature universe. Teacher will protect it in its entirety, even if it costs me my life. Luo Feng was seated on his throne, high and mighty above all. Looking at Sitting Mountain guest, who was seated in a faraway corner, he shut his eyes. His heart was trembling. Maybe Sitting Mountain guest was making use of him. Or maybe he had some other plan in mind. But for a trillion eras, as Luo Feng had grown up and matured, Sitting Mountain guest had never once requested his help before. On the contrary, Sitting Mountain guest had always been the one helping him. Even up until now, Sitting Mountain guest was still helping him. Such great kindness far surpassed all the help that True Yang and Primal Chaos City leader had ever rendered. Luo Feng had always had this nagging feeling that Sitting Mountain guest had some kind of plan, which was why there was always a barrier within his heart that he could not overcome. However, regardless of it all, Sitting Mountain guest had, undoubtedly, always helped him. Even if it meant having to give up on his own miniature universe, he insisted on helping Luo Feng. Teacher, Luo Feng silently said to himself, when this sector beast crisis is over and everything I need to protect is safe, I, Luo Feng, will repay you for your great kindness. Even if I die doing so, I do it most willingly. At the membrane walls of the endlessly huge primal universe, a lone figure penetrated through and flew out. He wore a suit of silver armor, and there were 5 pairs of wings behind him. Sector beasts. A glimmer of a ferocious ray of light flashed in Luo Feng's eyes. Then he flew off and disappeared within the endless chaotic airflow. At the same time that Luo Feng left the primal universe, outside the portal that led to Luo Feng's miniature universe from Milky Way Holy Land, sitting mountain guest who sat cross-legged on a mountain peak came floating over. In his eyes was peace, with no trace of happiness or sorrow. The guards had already received orders regarding his arrival, so naturally, none would dare to block his way. Sitting mountain guest flew smoothly, right into the portal. Inside the miniature universe of Luo Feng, sitting mountain guest flew into a dimension space that was gradually being formed. He observed the miniature universe and thought, the structure of this miniature universe is indeed exceptional. Though he didn't know the true structure of this miniature universe, he could still sense that it was different. Luo Feng. Sitting mountain guest waved his hands, and an exquisite palace showed up beside him. He stepped in and said, "I'll stay in your miniature universe now. As for those 450,000 sector beasts, they're staying right outside your miniature universe. Just sense them carefully. Once they start to attack, tell me." "Yes, teacher," came a voice in the distance. Those 450,000 sector beasts weren't making attacks now. Instead, they were just making threat. Luo Feng couldn't ask sitting mountain guest to guard his miniature universe forever. It would take a lot to guard such an enormous miniature universe, so he would just wait until the sector beasts started to swallow it. In another area of the miniature universe, inside a spaceship, the godly-powered avatar of Luo Feng remained beside Morosa. "Master, there are less than 50,000 sector beasts in that area," said Morosa. Luo Feng nodded. At the moment, his original body was approaching that area. His original body wasn't moving forward, as he didn't have a specific target yet. After all, there were so many sector beasts, and if he attacked one of them, all the others would know, which was why he had to pick a strong one. "Just watch them carefully, Morosa," said Luo Feng. "Sense the power of each sector beast. Some eat a lot while some don't. Keep a close watch on those who eat a lot, and alert me about those who are about to reach level 5. From 450,000 to fewer than 50,000. On average, only 1 out of 9 sector beasts survived. However, powerful sector beasts could consume them faster, so some had already eaten more than 20 sector beasts, yet some found it difficult to succeed, and it might take them a long time to eat around 5 sector beasts, so the odds of them reaching level 5 were uneven. "Yes," said Morosa respectfully. Time flew. Luo Feng could see the number of light spots on the giant model decreasing. As for those surrounding his miniature universe, nothing was happening to them. Apparently, they wouldn't make a move until he did something. Once he attacked, the other sector beasts would have the same reactions. Less than 3,000 now. Luo Feng looked at the light spots. From 450,000 spots to less than 3,000. It was so quick. There were fewer than 3,000 that Luo Feng could see clearly. "No level 5 born yet?" he asked. "Relax, Master," said Morosa. "There's only a chance that a level 5 sector beast will be born. However, even if one is born, it will be barely at level 5. If you go there now, you'll alert the entire sector beast group, which is not worth it. Just wait longer, and there will be several level 5 sector beasts." Luo Feng nodded. "Remember, don't let a level 6 sector beast be born." "I'll be careful," said Morosa. "It's very difficult for a level 6 sector beast to be born. There are only 450,000 sector beasts in all, and only after 2/3 have granted their power to one of them would a level 6 sector beast be born. Relax, Master. I'll alert you to all the sector beasts that might be a threat." Luo Feng nodded. Time passed. Not only Luo Feng was anxious, but the true gods who sat in the godly palace of the virtual universe were anxious. Yet they didn't dare to bother Luo Feng. "Master, you can go now," said Morosa. "Go now." Luo Feng's eyes gleamed. There are now fewer than 1,000 sector beasts in that area, and at least 3 of them are at level 5, said Morosa. "Only 3? Thought Luo Feng. These 3 sector beasts ate and fought very quickly, and based on the number of sector beasts they had swallowed, they must have reached level 5 already. Of course, there's still a long way to go for them to become level 6. No need to rush. Luo Feng frowned. I can only kill a small number of sector beasts now, and I should wait to do that until they get stronger. Let them eat more sector beasts. The number of sector beasts was decreasing. 800. 600. 300. Master, there are only 210 sector beasts now, said Morosa anxiously. There must be at least 10 level 5 sector beasts, and 7 of them just entered level 5. These 3 are the strongest. Oh! Luo Feng took a look. It was time for him to act. If he kept waiting, it would be more likely for a level 6 sector beast to be born. These 3. Luo Feng located the 3 sector beasts. Luo Feng stood with his silver wing in the endless chaos air. I'll be spotted if I kill a single sector beast, Luo Feng thought. And then, all the other sector beasts will start to run away. However, I can teleport farther, so I might be able to kill another one, which means I can at least kill 2 sector beasts. Killing 3 sector beasts will be my limit. As for killing 4, it will come down to luck. Luo Feng's target was certainly those most powerful sector beasts. Let's go. Luo Feng immediately started to teleport in long distance. He had originally been near that area anyway, and after only 3 minutes, he approached the sector beast that Morosa had highlighted. Master, said Morosa, that sector beast Chi-Ya. It was just as powerful as me when I was still as my peak, and I reckon it was at level 4 before. This time, it has eaten the most sector beasts, and based on my estimation, it's the sector beast that is currently closest to level 6. It must be at top tier level 5 now. Chi-Ya. Luo Feng immediately teleported and approached, sensing carefully. Ha ha ha. A ferocious sector beast was floating in space, swallowing another sector beast. You should feel honored to be eaten by me. I'll be the ultimate king. Sector beast Chi-Ya was brimming with confidence. It had been standing among the top beings within the sector beast race. Last time, Luo Feng had killed more than 8 million sector beasts, many pinnacle sector beasts included. After Bedi died, Chi-Ya had been one of the top-tier beings, as it had already been at level 4. Besides, they'd been eating each other, so it was the fastest for it. Once I enter level 6, I'll have 10 million bodies, Sector Beast Chi-Ya announced confidently. I'll live forever, and I can kill my enemies one by one with all my skills. Even if I am surrounded, I'll only lose one body. I can fail 1,000 times, yet those other sector beasts can't afford to fail once. I'll definitely be the ultimate king. The first sector beast that entered level 6 would generally become king. Next one. Sector Beast Chi-Ya sensed the sector beast closest to it and planned to teleport and charge toward it. All of a sudden, the space around Chi-Ya became clotted. No. Sector Beast Chi-Ya missed a heartbeat. The clotted space worried Chi-Ya even before it could see who it was. It had to be Milky Way Horde leader. It was already at the top of the chain, and it had the highest hopes of becoming the king. However, on its way to becoming a king, its greatest enemy was Milky Way Horde leader Luo Feng. If it was stopped by him, it would be doomed. However, if it could get away, there was a chance it might reach level 6 and become the ultimate king. Sector Beast Chi-Ya looked with both its heads. A silver-armored man appeared, and those 5 pairs of wings were gleaming. Both of Chi-Ya's singular eyes were glinting with resentment. It was almost there. If it weren't for that Milky Way Horde leader, it was likely that it would become the ultimate king. However, that plan was gone now. Based on the plan concocted by the entire Sector Beast race, once Milky Way Horde leader came out to kill them, the most brutal situation would begin. Milky Way Horde leader Luo Feng had ceased caring about his miniature universe, and the first one who got attacked would be the sacrifice. Unfortunately, Chi-Ya was the victim. Milky Way Horde leader roared Chi-Ya. You'll regret it. You will. That silver-armored man in the distance didn't give a damn about Chi-Ya. The wings on his back started to gleam, and he infused his burning godly power into the wings, forming a miniature universe in the space around them. Chi-Ya immediately started to transmit his voice through his heart to all the other sector beasts, except Morosa. Milky Way Horde leader is attacking me. He's attacking me. His here. His here. Destroy his miniature universe. Destroy his miniature universe. Avenge me, my friends. Chi-Ya was filled with bitterness and hatred. It raged, charging at the silver-armored man in the distance. At the same time, the bloody engraving picture on its body started to spin as it performed the most powerful technique, destruction, without a second thought. His right here. His right here. Destroy his miniature universe. Destroy his miniature universe. The resentful voice of Sector Beast Chi-Ya echoed in every Sector Beast's heart. All 900,000 Sector Beasts had agreed to this plan. They would fight each other until a level 6 Sector Beast was born. Once a level 6 Sector Beast was born, they were basically guaranteed a win in this battle. We have surrounded his miniature universe, yet he still dared to rush out? That Milky Way Horde leader really doesn't care about anything else. Not even his own miniature universe. He's risking everything. The Sector Beasts were furious. Milky Way Horde leader was risking it all? Then the Sector Beasts would risk it all as well. Eat his miniature universe. In the space outside the giant miniature universe, more than 450,000 Sector Beasts surrounded it. The densely packed Sector Beasts were everywhere, roaring in anger. All the Sector Beasts teleported and approached the miniature universe. Soon, they were close enough to consume the miniature universe. Devour it. Devour it. More than 450,000 Sector Beasts all shot out curvy traces of light, penetrating the space and enveloping Luo Feng's enormous miniature universe in the distance. Chaotic airflow was drifting all about. The vast land was continuously condensing, then extending and expanding. On this vast piece of land, there was an exquisite palace. This palace belonged to Sitting Mountain Guest. It has been nearly 20 days now. Sitting Mountain Guest sat in a relaxed manner. There was a wine decanter on the crystal table next to him, and he was leisurely holding a wine glass. It had been close to 20 days since he'd arrived at Luo Feng's miniature universe. Without a break, he had waited for that very moment when the Sector Beasts moved in to start devouring Luo Feng's miniature universe. There was a reason he had waited so long. In fact, it had only taken a short time for Luo Feng to fly over to the region of the miniature universe of the first reincarnation. It was mainly because the Sector Beasts needed a long time to fight and devour. Normally, it would take trillions of eras before the evolution of the ultimate king could occur. Now, due to their fast shrinking numbers, every time one devoured another, they would require some time for digestion. As for crossing levels, for instance, going from the 3rd stage to the 4th stage, or the 4th stage to the 5th stage, such progress would require a great deal of time. An invisible power instantly spread throughout the entire miniature universe. Sitting Mountain Guest's expression changed. Have they started devouring? Theoretically, when Sector Beasts were devouring the origin, life forms within the miniature universe would not be able to detect anything. But with 450,000 Sector Beasts devouring at the same time, the violent vibration they caused in time and space would be more than enough to affect the entire miniature universe. In Luo Feng's miniature universe, 100,000 planets were revolving around the core of nothingness that they kept surrounded. That nothingness was also continuously revolving as it devoured, and its strong devouring power was causing the chaotic airflow in the void space outside the miniature universe to form a gigantic whirlpool. Suddenly, another strong power penetrated through the void space and fell directly into the middle of this origin. There, it began devouring the power of the origin the best it could. It's here. A godly powered avatar condensed and took form in the middle of the origin. It was Luo Feng's godly powered avatar. Block it. Luo Feng's willpower was rendering support to the origin as it tried its best to mount a resistance. Hong. Long. Long. The entire origin was trembling. The 100,000 planets that were originally revolving so peacefully started to release an outburst of light rays and began to revolve in a crazy manner. As for the whirlpool brought about by the core of nothingness, it also produced a formidable gravitational force. In the face of the swallowing power of 450,000 Sector Beasts, it instantly started to collapse. It was like a game of tug-of-war. From where he was, Luo Feng was pulling inward, while the 450,000 Sector Beasts were pulling outward. However, With just one touch, the entire line of sector beasts collapsed. What? Luo Feng was shocked. How is that possible? 450,000 sector beasts in the space outside Luo Feng's miniature universe were astounded. Both sides were shocked. No one had expected such an outcome. How could it be so easy? Luo Feng carefully sensed his own origin. 100,000 planets were revolving around the core of nothingness. Everything was gathered within the whirlpool of that nothingness. By sensing his origin, a sudden understanding dawned upon Luo Feng. 100,000 heavens? The beginning of the origin? So, this is what they turned out to be. Luo Feng instantly understood the mystery behind these two things. 4 ordinary true gods, even those from the pulse of Duandong River, godly king of Jin, and generations of great beings, their universe structures might have been considered magical, but they were not flawless. If they ever encountered sector beasts that intended to devour their origins, they were destined to be devoured. Even with their willpower rendering a certain degree of support, it would only mean the devouring process would be slowed down. That was all. But for Luo Feng, the situation was different. The structures of beginning of the origin and 100,000 heavens were the understanding of the most mystical life structure diagrams that Luo Feng managed to derive after comprehending at a life gene level of 100,000 times. They represented his final comprehension. They had the same effect as the structure diagram of 100,000 life genes level. Both shared a common feature, complete with nothing lost. Luo Feng's godly power could even be transformed into a sector beast's power. Even if his miniature universe were to be subjected to violent vibrations, even if the numerous planets within his origin were shattered, so long as he still had his beginning of the origin, he could rapidly regenerate another 100,000 heavens. It was immortalized. It was the beginning of everything. It was complete and without any leakage. This was a miniature universe that was complete, in its entirety, at the point of birth. Since it was so complete, without anything being lost, it would certainly be untouchable to those who attempted to devour it. As for the other miniature universes, the moment they were born, they were unbefitting of being considered complete and free of leakage. Naturally, they could and would be devoured. This was also why the diameter of the other true gods' miniature universes was only as big as 100 million light-years, whereas Luo Feng's miniature universe had a diameter of 1 billion light-years. Perhaps, at the moment, Luo Feng's miniature universe was not as big as that of a true god of void space or an eternal true god. But the moment Luo Feng became a true god of void space or an eternal true god, he would definitely be above them all. This was because his miniature universe had a structure that was complete and without leakage. It was naturally flawless from the start. In fact, the process was similar to the evolution of the sector beasts, which moved individuals in the direction of becoming a complete, ultimate life form, the ultimate king. The ultimate king of the sector beasts would be just like Luo Feng. It would be able to transform its sector beast power into godly power. It could easily change its aura. It could change everything. There were many things it would be able to do, and it would acquire an array of talents such as breeding and devouring. The way a king of the sector beasts devoured things would be the true terror. Even Luo Feng's miniature universe, even the primal universe, none would be able to resist it. Because the king of the sector beasts represented true destruction, even the primal universe would need to self-destruct and transform into its origin in order to mount a resistance. Luo Feng's miniature universe might have the potential to do so, but in terms of talent, it was lacking. Therefore, it would still be restrained. However, that was when being restrained by the king of the sector beasts. These were ordinary sector beasts whose lives had yet to evolve to completion. Solely relying on their talents to confront Luo Feng's miniature universe, which was complete and with no leakage, naturally, there was no way they could land a bite. No matter what, they would not be able to devour anything. Not even a trace of it. Initially, Luo Feng fell into a daze, but soon after, he was in a state of delirium. The 450,000 sector beasts outside were also struck with disbelief. They had always thought of themselves as superior life forms and had always believed they were born to be incomparably noble. They felt that no miniature universe had a chance when facing them, and everyone would be devoured by them in the end. But today, it was like they had bitten a sheet of iron, shattering their teeth. And yet, they had not managed to take a single bite. Luo Feng? Teleporting out of the palace, Sitting Mountain Guest wore a solemn expression as he looked far into the distance where a chaotic airflow was spreading over to fill up. He wondered to himself, "Do you need me to protect you?" Sitting Mountain Guest had a feeling that such a great commotion had to have been caused by the sector beasts devouring. Luo Feng's voice was transmitted. "It's all right, teacher. Those sector beasts are unable to do anything to me." "Can't do anything?" Sitting Mountain Guest was shocked. Luo Feng transmitted his voice again. "They can devour the miniature universes of other true gods, but they can't devour mine." Sitting Mountain Guest was dumbfounded, but soon, a smile appeared on his face. Even he had never heard of anyone being able to create a miniature universe with a diameter of 1 billion light-years at the true god level. Such uniqueness was the only explanation for such an outcome. "Haha. Then over here at your miniature universe, I'm no longer needed." Sitting Mountain Guest laughed heartily, then immediately left Luo Feng's miniature universe. In the faraway region containing the miniature universe of the first reincarnation era, amidst one of the void spaces, Luo Feng was engaged in crossfire with one of the fifth stage sector beasts. Sector beast Zia was executing destruction. It was trying its best just to stay alive. Previously, Betty was only a fifth stage sector beast, said sector beast Zia. "I suspect Betty had not yet reached the top level of the fifth stage. I am stronger than it was, so who knows, I might be able to survive this." Zia executed destruction and fought with all its might. Yet suddenly, a piece of news was transmitted to it. It was shocked into a daze. How could it be that the devouring of Luo Feng's miniature universe would fail? They were unable to devour Luo Feng's miniature universe. Humph. Seeing sector beast Zia's surprise, Luo Feng wielded his blood ghost blade and fought with all his might. Fighting a fifth stage sector beast was what Luo Feng looked forward to. The technique of destruction, when performed by a fifth stage sector beast, would allow Luo Feng a chance to steal a glimpse of the destruction of the origin. Earlier, he had only managed to see Betty execute it twice. This Zia, in its heightened state of madness, had already executed it 3 times in succession, much to Luo Feng's benefit. "Even when I execute destruction, I still cannot shake it off." Sector beast Zia wanted to bring out his sector light passageway right away. Suddenly, at the same moment when Luo Feng's blood ghost blade struck, a water droplet soundlessly invaded the body of sector beast Zia. This was 3 stars sector, a soul enslavement technique that Luo Feng was most skillful and powerful in. Previously, he had relied on this technique to enslave Morosa. Whether this enslavement would be successfully or not depended on 2 determining factors: the soul and the willpower. From the first stage to the 6th stage, the sector beasts were all at the true god level. Although they were evolved, their souls did not go through much evolution. Mainly, it was the sector in the bodies rising, their comprehension level improving, and so the battle techniques that they could execute were more mystical and profound. There was also a gradual increase in the unique moves they would be capable of executing, such as sector light passageway, sector light domain, and destruction. Zia's soul was slightly stronger than Morosa's, but not by very much. As for its willpower, both were the cream of the crop among the sector beasts. Now, with the rapid evolution of all the sudden fighting and killing, Zia's internal sector might have become more powerful, but its willpower did not increase much. This was just like Luo Feng. Only when Luo Feng's comprehension reached the life gene level of 100,000 could he comprehend the insight of the universe operations. That was when his willpower could evolve to an eternal true god's ultimate limit. As for the stage where he progressed from a universe master to a true god, there had not been much improvement in his willpower at all. Theoretically speaking, if I can enslave Morosa, I can also enslave Zia. Luo Feng whispered to himself. What is? In sector beast Zia's 2 singular eyes, there was first confusion, quickly followed by a painful struggle. Explode. With a loud rumble, it exploded. Holding on to its only remaining glimmer of sobriety, sector beast Zia had managed to blow itself up. It had known that if it hesitated further, it would most likely be completely caught up. Sector Beast Zia had not reacted in time to execute Sector Light passageway to escape, so it had been left with its only choice to the path of freedom, self-destruction. How could the enslavement be unsuccessful? Luo Feng frowned. Previously, when he had been in the Sector Beast's nest, he had needed to act very carefully. That was because he had not enslaved a Sector Beast. But this time around, he intended to spread his killing to all four corners. If he could enslave a fifth-stage Sector Beast, then he and his Sector Beast could split into two forces. That way, they could kill even more Sector Beasts. This Zia was, after all, of the same caliber as Morosa and Betty. It had already stood among the top-tiered Sector Beasts long before now. Its willpower had been quite strong to begin with. Luo Feng shook his head. Perhaps by switching to a Sector Beast with weaker willpower, I will be able to enslave it. Luo Feng immediately teleported and vanished in a flash as he made his way after the next Sector Beast. Sector Beast Zia's death did not seem to stir up much commotion among the Sector Beasts. This was because the entire Sector Beast race was surprised by the news that Luo Feng's miniature universe could not be devoured. They had all fallen into a mixed state of shock and anger. Execute the final abandonment plan. The abandonment plan. This is an insult to all the Sector Beast. The final plan. This was a plan that the Sector Beasts had prepared while escaping out of their nests. It was the final abandonment plan. The most dreadful plan. A plan that required a great many Sector Beasts to be sacrificed. It was unfair, but the Sector Beasts were all of one mind. This was a plan that guaranteed the birth of a sixth-stage Sector Beast. Putting this plan into play was a great insult to the honorable Sector Beasts. But now, they had no choice but to execute this plan. There was nothing they could do to Luo Feng. There was nothing they could do to his miniature universe. He could kill them to his heart's content or enslave them all he wanted. They needed to fall back on their one last shot. The birth of a sixth-stage Sector Beast. According to the limitation set by the Supreme Law, forcing Morosa to show his true self would lead to the birth of the final king. So long as the king of the Sector Beasts could be born, Luo Feng would die. This was cruelty. Most of the Sector Beasts were unwilling to execute it. Unless they were left with no other recourse, they would never resort to the abandonment plan. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. More than 450,000 Sector Beasts originally surrounding Luo Feng immediately teleported over long distances in all directions. They quickly made their escape and left. This video will end here.